All right, it looks like we are live on Facebook still. Hello, everybody out in Facebook land. Unfortunately, YouTube is not with us tonight. So it looks like it's just you and I and everybody in the room. So we're going to do a little class tonight. Hopefully something that is maybe interesting to some, but in any event, something that's rather looked over, I think, or not as commonly seen, which is the perspectives in xLights. Now, xLights is, let me get rid of my phone here before it starts going off, and I can't get it shut off. There we go. If you all have used xLights, you have your way of setting up xLights, and just because you have xLights set up the way you want doesn't mean that it's always going to be set up the way you need it to be set up whenever you're working between, let's say, multiple computers or multiple users. So for example, I'll just go ahead and pop on to xLights real quick, and I have a nothing fancy here. First of all, let me make sure I got the screen capture rolling here. Yep. Okay. So first of all, just to kind of get started with this tonight, perspectives are just basically how you see xLights. Now, when you open xLights for the very first time, there is a default that is set up. So if we go into tools and views, and we go to perspectives, you can see that you have a default perspective always. Now, there is also a window here. You can go to Windows, and these are the different windows, the little boxes, the dialogues that are available. Now, I'm going to do something called reset to default. So this is kind of the first thing that you want to learn. There is a default setting to xLights and let me get rid of those because those usually aren't there too. There's a default setting to xLights where xLights will put a default set to placement of all of your dialog boxes. And for everybody out there that sequences, I don't expect everybody to sequence the same way, but I also don't expect you to have the same windows set up in the way that we do things in xLights, because everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to create a different way. Everybody's going to see things a different way. Now, I am left-handed, holding up my left hand, and I like to keep everything on the left side of my screen because that's just how I operate. There are a number of people that like to keep things on the right side of their screen. That's how they operate, or they put things on the bottom of the box or at the top of the box, one or the other. And it really doesn't matter where you put them. But the nice thing is that when you open up xLights, you can have multiple ways to save these. And when you do, it really is helpful for whenever you're going between one computer or one system to another computer or another system. So with that being said, this is kind of a default perspective, and this is something that you can expect to see xLights have kind of sort of pre-done for you. But let me walk you through some of the things that you would want to know about the Windows boxes. So if we go to the tools, views, and we go to Windows, you can turn on and turn off a number of boxes. Now, these happen to be the default boxes that should be there most of the time. If you want to activate a box, for example, the perspectives box, it's not activated in this screen. So I just activated it. So what we'll do is we'll first look at what the perspective box is. It's basically a plus and minus. So you can add a perspective, you can minus, you can delete a perspective, you can rename one, and you can save them. And in order to utilize this, you need to double click to load a perspective. So in this instance, I'm going to save this as the default. Now, what's nice about the default is whenever you start xLights, it has a default, usually shrinks it all to one monitor. But if you're like me, and I have this on my right-hand side monitor, on my left-hand side monitor, that is my secondary monitor in this instance on this computer. On my other computer, it's a far different setup. I have it's more elaborate. And I don't want to go into much detail other than whenever I spread things out, because I have more real estate or more monitor space to kind of do that with, I don't tend to keep everything on one screen. A number of you will be familiar with the perspectives box from whenever I've done demos in the past. And one of the things that I have brought out was my laptop view. So let's say we're going on a trip somewhere, and I have to be able to sequence off of one screen. I have to be very picky about where certain things are, where I keep them, and I still have to be able to get to certain things. So one of the things I do is I came up with a view or a perspective, and I called it. I hit the plus button here, and I called it laptop. So what this meant to me, this was whenever I'm on the road and I'm, kind of sequencing on the road, if that's the case, then I can double click on this. Now, if I double click on this, it doesn't do anything because we haven't really set it up. So what I'm going to do, and there's the effects assist just kind of popped up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my model preview right here, because this is where I would put it. This is what I would do. Now, that just because I have the model preview there doesn't mean that I need it there always. The house preview, and so if you guys remember, a couple weeks ago we did a class on determining what all the icons across the top of the screen did. One of the things that you'll recall is some of these icons up here control some of the boxes that we use. So if I'm in my laptop mode, I utilize these heavily. So this would be the house preview. I'd leave the house preview sitting right here. I wouldn't dock it. I would leave it sitting right here, and I'd only preview the whole house whenever I need to. And then I would make it go away by clicking the button. So I would leave that as a perspective. Now, or in this specific area. Just a quick note, to move these boxes around, whenever you do, xLights wants to auto dock. You can see how it finds a gray spot to throw something. Whenever you are trying to move something across the screen, that auto dock is built into xLights. Now, there are some preferences you can change so that you don't auto dock your house preview, that it just kind of floats. It doesn't link itself. But if you don't want to use the auto dock, hold the control key down. And I'm holding it down now. You can see it's not trying to automatically dock. Now, if I lift my finger off the key, now it wants to auto dock. So I'm going to hold the control key. I'm just going to move this to an area where I feel like this is usually where I like it. I like it over here in the top right, because I don't need a really big perspectives window. This can be rather small, but it's easy for me to come over here, and it just takes up this really small piece of real estate over here. So that's kind of helpful. It doesn't have to be big at all. I mean, I'm not creating a bunch of perspectives, but I have the ability to quickly go through them and find the one that I need right away. So with that being said, now I've done a couple changes already. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, but you're going to save this whenever you're clicked onto the laptop, but you have to be on the laptop and have already double clicked it once. That way it's selected, and we'll go ahead and click save. Are you sure you want to save the current view as perspective laptop? And I'll say, yes, I'm sure I want to save it. Now, if you click save and it says default perspective, hit no, because you don't want to erase your default. It's always nice to have your default. It's definitely helpful. It's definitely helpful. So the next thing I would do is effects assist. That really doesn't have a spot that I absolutely need it, but I would put it right here if I needed it, and I turn it off. And so I've got it out of the way, and I'll go ahead and save the perspective again, because now I've got that where I want it pretty much. So you can put these boxes wherever you want. In my world, I like having my sequencing effects settings over here. In as far as layer settings, this is your layer setting box. I use these the most during my sequencing. Having these on the left-hand side of the screen, because that's what works for me. This is quite helpful. So this is basically what I'm doing is I'm creating this. I'll go ahead and save this. And this saves with your layout. So anytime you're doing a layout with xLights or a sequencing with xLights and you're messing with your perspectives, it will save it whenever you hit the save button up there, but it saves it to your layout and saves it in your xLights directory. At least I believe it does. I might be wrong about that. The other thing that is kind of helpful is I usually like to have the layer blendings and the color palettes up here at the top. This is just my preference, right? And if I want to get rid of that big screen, I can get rid of that big screen. And this is basically the workspace that I would use as if I were on the road. Now, this is all well and good, but what's the point of having these different perspectives? Well, again, what happens if you have two different people that sequence in xLights? And I mean, it does happen. We have family teams that are out there. Some of the moms and dads go into xLights and they put the props in there, and then maybe the wife does all the sequencing, or maybe the husband does the sequencing, the wife puts the stuff up, right, or whatever. However you work it out. There's a lot of ways that different people utilize different things. So when I'm physically at my other desk, whenever I have much more real estate, what I'll end up doing, and I'm gonna take this and I'm going to move this off the screen. I'm going to start pulling some boxes over. So typically, I like to have my effects setting on this left-hand side. So if you can imagine, you have two screens. This is my left screen that I'm building for you. So what's nice about this is that you can take your boxes, if you have two monitors, and you can spread them out among other things. So in my world, my xLights screen would be off to the right here. And this would be my left monitor over here. And I would have also a couple other things. Let's say I'll put this here, tools, view, windows, and we can go into our effect dropper, which, oh wait, no, not the effect dropper, excuse me, view, windows, value curve dropper. There we go. That's this right here, which was up earlier. And I like to put this here, and I go to view, windows, color dropper. Now the color dropper I like to keep right here. Now if you sequence, this might make more sense to you if you sequence, knowing that this is off to one side of your monitor over here on the right hand side, but it's on your left. Let's say it's on your left monitor and you're left-handed, but perhaps you're right-handed. Maybe you sequence with xLights on your left monitor, and then these are on your right hand side. So maybe you're putting these over here, and maybe that's a little quicker. Now I've talked about this in some other classes. Let's do this. Let's do this. There we go. That looks good. So this is sort of what it would be like. Now, one of the other things I'll show you that usually whenever I'm on this screen here, the right screen, you can see how I have the color palettes here, and I have my color curves or my color dropper right here. So I could literally just pull this to the left-hand side of the screen, and I'd pop it right into the top box here. If I'm switching my setup around, I may move this down here. I may grab this and put this over here on this side, because if this were over on, let's say, this side of the screen, let's imagine that the monitor you could see. I know we're kind of fooling around a little bit and it's a little weird, but if your sequencing screen is right here and you have the rest of your monitors over here, perhaps you want to add another one because this is going to be your dual monitor setup. So that's what we'll do. We'll hit the plus sign here. Now you can't see it and it won't let me move it. So I'll cancel it. I'm going to pull this back over here. I'm going to hit the plus key here, enter the name of the perspective. We'll call this the two monitor. And so now whenever you double click it, it activates it and it's saved. So if you can imagine that this half of your screen, let's do it this way so that you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. There we go. This would be like your sequencing screen. This would be this would be a monitor over here, and then this would be another screen setup, if you would, another monitor over on the right hand side. So your monitor would be split, let's say right there. So if you had two monitors, you could spread this out. Now, another nice thing about having multiple monitors is whenever you're kind of spread out like you are here, and I'll do this even a little bit more, you can take your house previews and you can take your model previews, and you can add these over into here. We'll make this, we'll kind of shuffle this around so it's a little bit smaller even still. And let's say you have these over here, and as you're sequencing or as you're working in the layout, you have this perspective where you can see your model preview and your house preview right here. So this is why it's helpful to understand what the previews do. Whenever you do have a house preview or model preview, you can create those in any manner that you want. Now, one of the things that not so much now, when we first started out, Rob did some sequencing, and he had his own monitor. He called it Tiny, I think, and that was he called it the Batwing setup, I think is what he called it. And he had two smaller monitors up in the top right corner and the top left corner of his office, and then he had the main monitor, which was larger in the center. So his was kind of a perfect perspective for him. But whenever I sequenced, I just selected the one that said for me. So I had one that's called Clyde 1, and that's what I use. So that's nice to be able to do that. What I want to do. Oh, and since we've made these here, obviously we need to save these. Let me expand this out so we can get to the save button. Whoops. Can't see it right now. Try to make it bigger. There we go. There we go. So we're two monitors. We're selected here. We'll just click save, and you can't see the save button, but it's over here, right over here, right past my marker. And now it's saved. So if we go back to our laptop view, everything pops back to where it would be if we were originally in the laptop view. And then if we went to two monitors, we could double click on that, and you could see how quickly and rapidly that changes. Now, obviously, you have to move the xLights screen, so that does that. Definitely a nice addition. One of the other things I want to share with you about perspectives, and this may not be entirely apparent. Again, two different people sequencing off of two different computers have two different monitor setups. In my case, I have two computers. I have a main system, which isn't here where I'm at right now, but I also have my secondary system, which is the system I'm using. When we get busy during the fall, I utilize this system to render our sequences for some of our projects as they're going on. As we make changes, we can log into this computer and just make it render things while I'm busy working on the other one. So it's kind of nice having two. It's an old computer, but it does the job. So that's why we keep it going. What I want to do is I want to show you, let's go back to laptop perspectives. And I'm going to show you one more thing that is kind of interesting. Let's close sequence. So I also didn't mention that in order to activate the perspectives, you do need to have a sequence open. I don't think you can create a new perspective unless you have a new sequence open. So I just did a new sequence and did an animation, didn't save it. So it's no big deal. Let's go back to controllers. Let's go to change permanently. Let me find the regular layout so you can see. So you can kind of see what my perspective would be, the perspectives that I use. I have a couple of them. So the computer that I'm on right now, if I do a new sequence, new animation, done. The first is I do have a default perspective. The default isn't the actual default of xLights. It's close to it, but it's kind of a modified version. It's still similar to what I would normally do, but it's set up for two monitors because I have my preview over here. I have Clyde 1. If I click on Clyde 1, that little setup that little setup with the color palettes and the layer setting is what is directly right off to the left-hand side of my screen right there. So that's kind of what this is where whenever I use this computer, this is the perspective I use. Now, if I click on my laptop perspective, I've already told you this, laptop shoves everything into one place. So here's the house preview. If I need to make this bigger, I just grab this and I pull this out here and I put it back whenever I don't need it. And I hide them whenever I don't need to see them. Another thing you'll see is the value curve dropper, and you'll see the color dropper. It's all up here, so I can grab the colors and pop them in one at a time, and I can make any color palette that I need to because xLights is reading all of the colors that are in my color palette. Clyde 2, this is the main system that I work off of that has multiple monitors, more than 3. And if we double click on that, kind of it's the same thing. The only difference is it has it's the same idea as what laptop 2 does, but usually I can take my big house preview and put it all on one single monitor, and I can take my model preview over there as well. And then I also open up my effects presets and I put those over there as well. So I utilize that for my other computer with my other setup. So that would be my main computer. Now, the last one is kind of odd, and it took me a while to figure this out. But excuse me, but in xLights, when we do videos, when we export a house preview video, which is rather simple, you open a sequence, you render it, and then you open up the house preview. And when you want to make a preview video, which is something that we do a lot of, we tell you to extend your monitor. We tell you to extend your xLights house preview screen as large as you can get your screen to make it. And the reason for this is it usually gives you a better house preview video. The export usually comes out much better. In the past year, I'd say the developers, I want to say it was about this time last year, that the developers started working with trying to make a better version of outputting videos. And unbeknownst to me, we couldn't output our video quality as high as we naturally did. It was a natural thing for xLights to output the video, but you had to make this screen bigger. Well, I believe what some of the developers did was they gave us a little bit more control over the output of the video, and they put it into preferences. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with perspectives per se, but it led me to something that I'm going to show you. That's something that I did do in the code for our layouts, so that whenever I went to export videos, I could use the perspectives to create this video screen right here, this house preview screen, so that it exactly output 1920 by 1080. So this is a little secret that I had to learn on my own. But if you want to get a good MP3 export of your xLights preview video of your house whenever you're doing your sequencing, one of the things that I learned that I had to do through a bunch of trial and error was set on the others tab over here where it says video codec. I changed this to MPEG-4. Other people have done other options, which there's options there for you. But I wanted it to export as an MPEG-4, and I changed the bitrate to 72,000. So that video export actually comes out really, really nice. And I believe it shows up as 1080p whenever it will show up as 1080p after I show you exactly what you have to go look for. So let me open up a thing and start looking for this, because this is the next thing I want to show you. View. Okay, so if we go over here, basically this is our computer here, my computer. Let me go into excuse me, Dropbox. So Here's my Dropbox. I'm going to go into my PPD folder. I'm going to go into my, let's see, website. Let's see, website layout, and into the pro layout. So this here would be all of the layout files that you have. One of the layout files that you need to look into. And what I did was I edited the RGB effects file. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Right click and edit with Notepad++. And I have a lot of these open here. Let me get rid of these. Get rid of this. I'll close these. Okay. So one of the things whenever you are working within your xLights layout, and if you are in Notepad++, anything you change in here can break xLights. But what I did find was if you'd like to set the size of your export preview video and you have, let's say, 4 monitors in your layout setup, put those monitors in a postage stamp or at least one on top of another. That way you can extend out larger than what the 1920 by 1080 monitor is, or maybe you have a 4K monitor and then it won't matter as much. You'll be able to do this without an issue. What I did was I went and looked for, and I'm going to go look for it here. I'm going to type in, I'm going to Control F, and I'm going to find perspective for, what did I call it? I called it theater. And whenever I created a perspective called theater. And so what I had to do was I had to find the box size for the house preview video. See how it says house preview? And it says, I believe, state equals, where's the thing? There should be a manual. There should be a way to code this in xLights manually so that you don't have to do it in the XML. But I think it's right here. It's in this line of code. And what all we're looking for is we're looking for the X and Y size of how big to make the box. And I want to say it's been a couple weeks since I've done that. Well, a couple months now. I'll just arrow over. State preview, state. We're looking for a name house preview. Row. Oop, darn it. So this is, again, this isn't something that's 100%. Like, honest to God, I haven't done this in a while, but I figured this would be interesting enough. Let's see. If Scott were on here, he'd probably be able to tell you real quick. Display elements. No, that's too far. So what we're looking for is we're looking for house preview, effects assist. State preview, house preview. Okay, so I believe it has something specifically to do with this right here. So see how this says float W 1936 by 1172. Those are your 2 parameters that you have to edit. I believe that is float X. Maybe this is it. Float X at 1912. No. Because 1920 would be your width. So as 1936 is what your width needs to be. And you can physically type this in and save it through the Notepad++. And then 1080 would be your height. It actually comes out to be 1172 because 1080, whenever you fit it to a 1080 screen, it adds that frame, and I'll show you what I mean. It adds this frame around the outside of the box. So the goal is to make the preview screen exactly 1920 by 1080, and you have to oversize the frame in order to get it there. So whenever I learned that, and now that if I can't do it on this computer, but if I were to export a house preview video, whenever I click on the theater, now it won't work here. It'll look good. It'll look good. It won't look bad. But because I only have one monitor tall, if I put a second, if I had my other system, I have 4 postage stamp monitors, then this would allow me to extend into those. But since xLights is limited in what it can do, it has these boxes around it, and it kind of limits it to one monitor tall. And so you lose some of your what do you call it? Your frame, your pixelization. You can't go true 1080 with the one monitor setup. So that's how I was able to kind of work with it. But in any event, I have theater set up so that whenever I'm on my other computer, I can just double click on the theater setup. It makes it a 1920 by 1080. Otherwise, YouTube becomes kind of a pain in the neck, and it doesn't like to copy certain things from one video to another whenever you don't use the same size. So that was a little cheat that I learned. I saved it as a perspective. I know it's not most terribly exciting information, but at the same time, if you do float between a laptop, if somebody else has a different idea for what works for them, maybe they like having their layer blendings over here to the side, they can create their own version of a preview screen that works for them. You're able to set one up for yourself that's a little bit nicer for different situations, and I hopefully have taught you something maybe you didn't know too much about in xLights. So if you have any questions, let me pop open the chat here. Let me know. Go ahead and add any questions into chat. If you have any, you can also unmute your microphone. Happy to take any questions that you do have. So in any event, Facebook, thank you for joining us, Facebook. I know it's, again, not a super exciting long webinar, but this is definitely good information. If you didn't know, it certainly does do it. So any questions?